In this video, we are starting with chapter 15 from Law and Literature for second year BA LLB semester 4. This is Saint Joan, scene 6. Let us look at the background to Saint Joan, part 6. Part 6 presents the trial of Joan of Arc at Rouen, which is the climax of the play. It shows the conflict between individual faith and institutional authority. This part is set in a church court, ecclesiastical court, led by Pierre Cochon and the Inquisitor, with English political pressure represented by Richard Neville. Joan is not treated as a simple prisoner, but as a dangerous, religious and political threat. The main issue in this part is heresy. Joan claims that her actions are guided directly by God, but the church insists that God speaks only through the church. This creates a serious conflict. Joan believes in personal divine guidance, while the church defends authority, order, and tradition. The judges are not shown as purely evil. Instead, Shaw presents them as intelligent and sincere men who genuinely fear that Joan's ideas could destroy social and religious stability. The Inquisitor specially argues that even good and innocent people can spread dangerous heresy. Joan remains fearless, logical, and strong-minded throughout the trial. She refuses to deny her visions or submit completely to the church if it contradicts God. However, when she is threatened with burning, she becomes afraid and signs a recantation, that is confession, to save her life. But when she realizes that she will still be kept in permanent imprisonment, she withdraws her confession. She chooses death over loss of freedom and truth, showing her courage and integrity. The court then declares her a relapsed heretic, which leads to her execution by burning. Key ideas in Part 6. Conflict between individual conscience versus church authority. Religion used as a tool of power and control. Joan as a symbol of truth, courage, and independence. The tragedy of a society that fears change and originality. Conclusion. Part 6 is the most important and dramatic section of the play, where Joan's character reaches its peak. It shows how a brave and honest individual is destroyed by institutions that claim to protect truth but cannot accept it in a new form. Let us go through all the characters of the play. Joan of Arc, a brave young girl who says God guides her. She is on a trial. Pierre Cochon, the main judge of the trial, a church leader. The Inquisitor, a senior church judge who decides about heresy. Richard Neville, an English noble who wants Joan punished for political reasons. Destavit, promoter. He is the prosecutor. He brings charges against Joan. Corsalis, canon, a priest who supports the case against Joan. Ladvenu, a Dominican monk, a kind priest who tries to help and save Joan. Chaplain D. Stogumber, a hot-tempered priest who strongly hates Joan. Brother John Lamottrie, a Dominican monk acting for the Inquisition. The page, Warwick's young servant. The executioner, the man who carries out the punishment of burning. Assessors, a group of church officials who assist the judges. English soldiers who guards who keep Joan imprisoned. Rouen, 30th May 1431, a great stone hall in the castle, arranged for a trial at law, but not a trial by jury. The court being the bishop's court, with the Inquisition participating. Hence, there are two raised chairs side by side for the bishop and the inquisitor as judges. Rows of chairs radiating from them at an obtuse angle are for the canons, the doctors of law and theology. and the Dominican monks who act as assessors. In the angle is a table for the scribes with stools. There is also a heavy, rough wooden stool for the prisoner. All these are at the inner end of the hall. The further end is open to the courtyard through a row of arches. The court is shielded from the weather by screens and curtains. Looking down the great hall from the middle of the inner end, the judicial chairs and scribes' table are to the right. The prisoner's stool is to the left. There are arched doors right and left. It is a fine sunshiny May morning. Warwick comes in through the arched doorway on the judge's side, followed by his page. This page describes the physical setting and institutional nature of a medieval ecclesiastical trial, specifically one conducted under the authority of the church rather than a modern secular court. It is important to unpack both what kind of trial this is and how the space reflects power and procedure. The phrase "a trial at law, but not a trial by jury" highlights a key distinction. A trial at law means a formal legal proceedings governed by established rules and authorities. However, it is not a trial by jury, meaning there is no group of ordinary citizens deciding guilt or innocence. Instead, judgment is made by appointed authorities. Here, the judges are the bishop, a high-ranking church official, the inquisitor, representing the church's investigative authority, often linked to the Inquisition. This reflects a medieval system of justice where the church has legal as well as religious authority. Trial often focused on heresy or moral religious offenses. Decision making was centralized in elite figures, not the public. Role of the Inquisition. The mention of the Inquisition is significant. The Inquisition was a church institution responsible for investigating heresy, conducting interrogations, enforcing religious orthodoxy. Its participation means the trial is not purely administrative, it carries serious religious and ideological weight. Thus, the trial combines ecclesiastical authority, that is, bishop, doctrinal enforcement through inquisitor. Courtroom layout and symbolism. The detailed description of the hall is not just visual, it reflects hierarchy and control. Judge's position. Two raised chairs for the bishop and inquisitor symbolize authority and superiority. Physically place them above everyone else. Assessors. Seated in rows at an obtuse angle include canons, these are the church officials, doctors of law and theology, and Dominican monks. Their role is to advise the judges and provide scholarly and religious input. Scribes, positioned at a table. They record proceedings and ensure an official legal records. The prisoner, given a heavy, rough wooden stool. This is a stark contrast with the judge's elevated chairs. It emphasizes inferiority, vulnerability, and lack of comfort or dignity. Spatial division of the hall. The hall is divided into two symbolic areas. Inner end, which is the judicial zone, contains judges, assessors, scribes, and prisoner. It represents authority, law, and judgment. Outer end, open courtyard, open through arches, suggests public visibility, though controlled. The court is partially shielded by screens and curtains, indicates selective transparency. Perspective and staging. The description specifies the viewpoint from the middle of the inner end. Judges and scribes are on the right, prisoner is on the left. This arrangement reinforces a visual opposition between the authority on the right and accused on the left. a theatrical, almost stage-like composition. Atmosphere and contrast. The setting is described as a fine, sunshiny May morning. This creates a contrast, the brightness and warmth of the day versus the tense nature of the trial. This contrast often highlights the severity of institutional judgment, the indifference of nature to human suffering. Entrance of the Warwick. The passage ends with the entrance of Warwick. He enters through the judge's side, accompanied by his page. This suggests he is aligned with authority or official proceedings, and his entrance marks the beginning of action in the scene. Overall, the passage constructs a highly structured, hierarchical, and symbolic courtroom where justice is controlled by religious authorities. The accused is isolated and subordinated. Physical arrangement reinforces power, order, and inequality. It is not just a description of a place, it is a dramatic representation of authority, control, and institutional justice in a medieval religious context. Now let's start with the chapter. The page, pertly. I suppose your Lordship is aware that we have no business here. This is an ecclesiastical court and we are only the secular arm. The page is a young servant or attendant, typically in service to a nobleman. In this case, Warwick. The word pertly shows the page is slightly impertinent, that is cheeky or bold, speaking more freely than someone of his rank normally would. This is an ecclesiastical court, means the trial is being conducted by the church and not by the state. We are only the secular arm, means they represent the non-religious power or the worldly power such as nobles or government forces, which means their role is limited to carrying out orders like punishment but not judging the case. Warwick. I am aware of that fact. Will it please your impudence to find the Bishop of Beauvais for me, and give him a hint that he can have a word with me here before the trial if he wishes? Will it please your impudence? Impudence means rudeness or cheekiness. Warwick is mocking the page's boldness but not seriously punishing him. To find the Bishop of Beauvais for me, Warwick orders the page to summon Pierre Cochon, who is a key authority in the trial, and give him a hint that he can have a word with me here before the trial if he wishes. Warwick wants a private conversation before the trial begins. If he wishes sounds polite, but it is actually diplomatic language masking authority. It implies Warwick expects the bishop to come and he intends to influence or discuss matters beforehand. The page. Going, yes, my lord. Warwick. And mind you, behave yourself. Do not address him as Pious Peter. Do not address him as Pious Peter. Pious Peter is a mocking nickname for Pierre Cochon. Pious means very religious, but here it is used sarcastically. The page. No, my lord, I shall be kind to him, because when the maid is brought in, Pious Peter will have to pick a peck of pickled pepper. No, my lord, I shall be kind to him. The page pretends to agree with Warwick. He says he will behave politely toward the bishop, because when the maid is brought in, the maid refers to Joan of Arc. Her arrival signals the start of the difficult trial. Pious Peter will have to pick a pack of pickled pepper. This is a tongue twister used humorously. It suggests the bishop, Pierre Cochon, will soon be in a difficult, awkward and mentally challenging situation, and he will have to question Joan which won't be easy. Cochon enters through the same door with a Dominican monk and a canon, the latter carrying a brief. Pierre Cochon enters with a Dominican monk, religious member, and a canon, who is the church official, who is carrying a brief, a legal document for the trial. The page. The Right Reverend His Lordship, the Bishop of Beauvais, and two other reverend gentlemen. The page formally announces Pierre Cochon and two other respected church officials. Warwick, get out and see that we are not interrupted. The page, right, my lord. The page agrees politely to Warwick and then leaves quickly in a light, casual manner. Cochon, I wish your lordship good morrow, which is good morning. Warwick, good morrow to your lordship. Have I had the pleasure of meeting your friends before? I think not. Cochon, introducing the monk who is on his right. This, my lord, is Brother John Lemaitre, of the Order of Saint Dominic. He is acting as a deputy for the chief inquisitor into the evil of heresy in France, Brother John, the Earl of Warwick. Pierre Cochon introduces Brother John Lemaitre, a Dominican monk and deputy inquisitor against heresy. Warwick, your reverence is most welcome. We have no inquisitor in England. Unfortunately, though we miss him greatly, especially on occasions like the present. Warwick politely welcomes the inquisitor and ironically says England lacks such authority, which he wishes they had for situations like this trial. The inquisitor smiles patiently and bows. He is a mild elderly gentleman, but has evident reserves of authority and firmness. Cochon, introducing the canon, who is on his left. This gentleman is Canon John d'Estevit, of the chapter of Beauvais. He is acting as promoter. Pierre Cochon introduces Canon John d'Estevit, a church official who is acting as promoter, the one presenting the case against the accused. Warwick, promoter? Cochon, prosecutor, you would call him in civil law. Warwick, prosecutor, quite. I am very glad to make your acquaintance, Canon d'Estevit. d'Estevit bows. He is on the young side of middle age, well-mannered, but vulpine beneath his veneer. d'Estevit bows politely, appearing well-mannered, but is secretly sly and cunning. Vulpine means fox-like. Warwick, may I ask what stage the proceedings have reached? It is now more than 9 months since the maid was captured at Compiègne by the Burgundians. It is fully 4 months since I bought her from the Burgundians for a very handsome sum, solely that she might be brought to justice. It is very nearly 3 months since I delivered her up to you, my Lord Bishop, as a person suspected of heresy. May I suggest that you are taking a rather unconscionable time to make up your minds about a very plain case? Is this trial never going to end? Warwick complains that the trial is taking too long, reminding Pierre Cochon that he captured, bought, and handed over Joan of Arc for heresy and urges them to finish the case quickly. The Inquisitor, smiling, it has not yet begun, my lord. Warwick, not yet begun? Why? You have been at it 11 weeks. Cochon, we have not been idle, my lord. We have held 15 examinations of the maid, 6 public and 9 private. The Inquisitor, always patiently smiling, you see, my lord, I have been present at only 2 of these examinations. They were proceedings of the Bishop's Court solely, and not of the Holy Office. I have only just decided to associate myself, that is, to associate the Holy Inquisition with the Bishop's Court. I did not at first think that this was a case of heresy at all. I regarded it as a political case, and the maid as a prisoner of war. But having now been present at 2 of the examinations, I must admit that this seems to be one of the gravest cases of heresy within my experience. Therefore, everything is now in order, and we proceed to trial this morning. He moves towards the judicial chairs. The Inquisitor calmly explains that he first thought Joan of Arc's case was political, but now believes it is serious heresy, so the Inquisition has joined and the trial will begin properly today. Caution: this moment, if your lordship's convenience allows. Pierre Cauchon says the trial can begin immediately if it suits Warwick. Warwick graciously: well, that is good news, gentlemen. I will not attempt to conceal from you that our patience was becoming strained. Cauchon: so I gathered from the threats of your soldiers to drown those of our people who favor the maid. Cauchon says he is glad the trial is starting but admits impatience, and Pierre Cauchon replies, Warwick says he is glad the trial is starting but admits impatience, and Pierre Cauchon replies that Warwick's soldiers have been threatening those who support Joan of Arc. Warwick: dear me, at all events their intentions were friendly to you, my lord. Cauchon sternly: I hope not. I am determined that the woman shall have a fair hearing. The justice of the church is not a mockery, my lord. Richard Neville lightly excuses his soldiers, but Pierre Cauchon firmly insists that Joan of Arc must receive a fair trial and that church justice is serious. The Inquisitor, returning: never has there been a fairer examination within my experience, my lord. The maid needs no lawyers to take her part. She will be tried by her most faithful friends, all ardently desirous to save her soul from perdition. The Inquisitor says that Joan of Arc is getting a very fair trial, and that the judges, her friends, are trying to save her soul, so she does not need a lawyer. Destavit: sir, I am the promoter, and it has been my painful duty to present the case against the girl. But believe me, I would throw up my case today and hasten to her defense if I did not know that men far my superiors in learning and piety, in eloquence and persuasiveness, have been sent to reason with her, to explain to her the danger she is running, and the ease with which she may avoid it. Suddenly bursting into Forsenic eloquence, to the disgust of Cauchon and the Inquisitor, who have listened to him so far with patronizing approval. Men have dared to say that we are acting from hate. But God is our witness that they lie. Have we tortured her? No. Have we ceased to exhort her, to implore her to have pity on herself, to come to the bosom of her church as an erring but beloved child? Have we? Destavit says he is presenting the case against Joan of Arc, but claims the church is not cruel and is only trying to persuade her kindly to admit her error and save herself. Cauchon, interrupting dryly: take care, Canon. All that you say is true, but if you make his lordship believe it, I will not answer for your life, and hardly for my own. Pierre Cauchon dryly warns Destavit not to sound too sincere, joking that if Richard Neville believes it, they could be in danger. Warwick, deprecating, but by no means denying: oh, my lord, You are very hard on us poor English, but we certainly do not share your pious desire to save the maid. In fact, I tell you now plainly that her death is a political necessity which I regret but cannot help. If the church lets her go, Richard Neville says politely that the English do not care about saving Joan of Arc for religious reasons and that her death is necessary for political reasons, even though he feels some regret. Caution, with fierce and menacing pride, if the church lets her go, woe to the man, were he the emperor himself, who dares lay a finger on her. The church is not subject to political necessity, my lord. Pierre Cauchon firmly says that if Joan of Arc is freed by the church, no one, not even the emperor, can harm her, because the church does not follow political pressure. The Inquisitor, interposing smoothly, you need have no anxiety about the result, my lord. You have an invincible ally in the matter, one who is far more determined than you that she shall burn. The Inquisitor tells Richard Neville not to worry because a powerful force, implying the church system or Joan's own situation, will ensure that Joan of Arc is condemned and executed. Warwick: and who is this very convenient partisan, may I ask? The Inquisitor: the maid herself. Unless you put a gag in her mouth, you cannot prevent her from convicting herself 10 times over every time she opens it. The Inquisitor says that Joan of Arc herself will help condemn herself, because whenever she speaks, she unknowingly says things that make her seem guilty. Destavit: that is perfectly true, my lord. My hair bristles on my head when I hear so young a creature utter such blasphemies. Warwick: well, by all means do your best for her, if you are quite sure it will be of no avail. Looking hard at Cauchon: I shall be sorry to have to act without the blessing of the church. Destavit says Joan of Arc's words shock him as blasphemous, and Richard Neville replies that they can try to help her, but he still wants the church's approval before taking action against her. Cauchon, with a mixture of cynical admiration and contempt: and yet they say Englishmen are hypocrites. You play for your side, my lord, even at the peril of your soul. I cannot but admire such devotion, but I dare not go so far myself. I fear damnation. Warwick: if we feared anything, we could never govern England. My lord, shall I send your people in to you? Pierre Cauchon says he both admires and criticizes Richard Neville for risking his soul for politics, while Warwick replies that rulers cannot be fearful and asks if the trial should begin. Cauchon: yes, it will be very good of your lordship to withdraw and allow the court to assemble. Warwick turns on his heel and goes out through the courtyard. Cauchon takes one of the judicial seats, and Destavit sits at the scribe's table studying his brief. Pierre Cauchon asks Richard Neville to leave so the court can begin. Warwick exits, and the official take their places to start the trial. Cauchon, casually as he makes himself comfortable: what scoundrels these English nobles are. The Inquisitor, taking the other judicial chair on Cauchon's left: all secular power makes men scoundrels. They are not trained for the work, and they have not the apostolic succession. Our own nobles are just as bad. Pierre Cauchon calls English nobles corrupt, and the Inquisitor replies that all secular rulers are flawed because they lack true church authority and training. The bishop's assessors hurry into the hall, headed by Chaplain de Stogomber and Canon de Corsalis, a young priest of 30. The scribes sit at the table, leaving a chair vacant opposite Destavit. Some of the assessors take their seats, others stand chatting, waiting for the proceedings to begin formally. D. Stogumber, aggrieved and obstinate, will not take his seat, neither will Canon, who stands on his right. The bishop's advisers enter and prepare for the trial, but while most take their seats, some stand talking, and D. Stogumber and another canon refuse to sit, showing they are upset and stubborn. Caution. Good morning, Master D. Stogumber. To the Inquisitor. Chaplain to the Cardinal of England. The chaplain, correcting him. Of Winchester, my lord. I have to make a protest, my lord. Caution. You make a great many. The chaplain. I am not without support, my lord. Here is Master D. Corsalis, Canon of Paris, who associates himself with me in my protest. Pierre Cauchon says good morning to the chaplain and introduces him, but the chaplain corrects him about his position, says he wants to make a formal objection, and adds that another canon also supports his protest, while Cauchon remarks that he complains often. Cauchon. Well, what is the matter? The chaplain, sulkily. Speak you, Master de Corsalis, since I do not seem to enjoy his lordship's confidence. He sits down in dudgeon next to Cauchon on his right. Corsalis. My lord, we have been at great pains to draw up an indictment of the maid on 64 counts. We are not told that they have been reduced without consulting us. Pierre Cauchon asks what the problem is. The chaplain rudely refuses to speak and lets Corsalis answer while sitting down angrily. And Corsalis complains that they worked hard to prepare 64 charges against Joan of Arc, but were not informed when these were reduced without their approval. The Inquisitor. Master D. Corsalis, I am the culprit. I am overwhelmed with admiration for the zeal displayed in your 64 counts. But in accusing a heretic, as in other things, enough is enough. Also you must remember that all the members of the court are not so subtle and profound as you, and that some of your very great learning might appear to them to be very great nonsense. Therefore, I have thought it well to have your 64 articles cut down to 12. Corsalis, thunderstruck. 12? The Inquisitor admits he reduced the charges against Joan of Arc from 64 to 12, saying too many are unnecessary and too complex, and Corsalis reacts with shock at this reduction. The Inquisitor. 12 will, believe me, be quite enough for your purpose. The chaplain. But some of the most important points have been reduced almost to nothing. For instance, the maid has actually declared that the blessed saints Margaret and Catherine and the holy archangel Michael spoke to her in French. That is a vital point. The Inquisitor. You think, doubtless, that they should have spoken in Latin? The Inquisitor says 12 charges are enough. The chaplain argues that important points, like Joan of Arc hearing saints speak in French, have been weakened, and the Inquisitor replies sarcastically that perhaps they expected the saints to speak in Latin. Cauchon. No, he thinks they should have spoken in English. The chaplain. Naturally, my lord. The Inquisitor. Well, as we are all here agreed, I think that these voices of the maid are the voices of evil spirits tempting her to her damnation, It would not be very courteous to you, Master de Stogomber, or to the King of England, to assume that English is the devil's native language. So let it pass. The matter is not wholly omitted from the 12 articles. Pray, take your places, gentlemen, and let us proceed to business. Pierre Cochon jokes that the chaplain thinks the voices should be in English. The chaplain agrees, and the inquisitor sarcastically says that would mean the devil speaks English. So the point is not important, assures them it is still included, and tells everyone to sit down and begin the trial against Joan of Arc. All who have not taken their seats do so. The chaplain. Well, I protest, that is all. Corsalis. I think it hard that all our work should go for nothing. It is only another example of the diabolical influence which this woman exercises over the court. He takes his chair, which is on the chaplain's right. The chaplain says he still objects but cannot do more, and Corsalis complains that their hard work has been wasted, and even blames Joan of Arc for influencing the court unfairly, then sits down. Cochon. Do you suggest that I am under diabolical influence? Corsalis. I suggest nothing, my lord, but it seems to me that there is a conspiracy here to hush up the fact that the maid stole the Bishop of Senel's horse. Cochon, keeping his temper with difficulty. This is not a police court. Are we to waste our time on such rubbish? Corsalis, rising shocked. My lord, do you call the bishop's horse rubbish? Pierre Cochon asks if Corsalis is accusing him of being influenced by evil. Corsalis avoids answering but complains that Joan of Arc's theft is being ignored. Cochon angrily says such matters are unimportant for this court, and Corsalis, shocked, objects to calling the bishop's horse unimportant. The Inquisitor, blandly. Master de Corsalis, the maid alleges that she paid handsomely for the bishop's horse, and that if he did not get the money, the fault was not hers. As that may be true, the point is one on which the maid may well be acquitted. Corsalis. Yes, if it were an ordinary horse. But the bishop's horse, how can she be acquitted for that? He sits down again, bewildered and discouraged. The Inquisitor calmly says that Joan of Arc claims she paid for the horse and may be innocent, but Corsalis stubbornly insists that because it was a bishop's horse, the offense is serious, then sits down confused and discouraged. The Inquisitor. I submit to you with great respect that if we persist in trying the maid on trumpery issues on which we may have to declare her innocent, she may escape us on the great main issue of heresy, on which she seems so far to insist on her own guilt. I will ask you, therefore, to say nothing, when the maid is brought before us, of these stealings of horses and dancings round fairy trees with the village children, and praying at haunted wells, and a dozen other things which you were diligently inquiring into until my arrival. There is not a village girl in France against whom you could not prove such things. They all dance round haunted trees and pray at magic wells. Some of them would steal the Pope's horse if they got the chance. Heresy, gentlemen, heresy is the charge we have to try. The detection and suppression of heresy is my particular business. I am here as an inquisitor, not as an ordinary magistrate. Stick to the heresy, gentlemen, and leave the other matters alone. The inquisitor tells the court to ignore small and doubtful accusations against Joan of Arc like stealing or village customs, and focus only on proving heresy, which is the main and serious charge he is responsible for. Kushon, I may say that we have sent to the girl's village to make inquiries about her, and there is practically nothing serious against her. Kushon, out of patience, be silent, gentlemen, or speak one at a time. Corsalis collapses into his chair, intimidated. The chaplain, sulkily resuming his seat. That is what the maid said to us last Friday. Pierre Cochon says there is no serious wrongdoing found against Joan of Arc, then loses patience and orders everyone to be quiet and speak one at a time, after which Corsalis sits down nervously and the chaplain remarks that Joan herself had said the same thing earlier. Cochon, I wish you had followed her counsel, sir. When I say nothing serious, I mean nothing that men of sufficiently large mind to conduct an inquiry like this would consider serious. I agree with my colleague, the inquisitor, that it is on the count of heresy that we must proceed. Pierre Cochon says the chaplain should have listened to Joan of Arc, explains that the accusation against her are not truly serious, and agrees with the inquisitor that the trial should focus only on heresy. Ladvenu, a young but ascetically fine-drawn Dominican who is sitting next Corsalis on his right. But is there any great harm in the girl's heresy? Is it not merely her simplicity? Many saints have said as much as Joan. Ladvenu, a young Dominican, questions whether Joan of Arc's heresy is truly harmful, suggesting it may just be her innocence and nothing that even saints have said similar things. The Inquisitor, dropping his blandness and speaking very gravely, Brother Martin, if you had seen what I have seen of heresy, you would not think it a light thing, even in its most apparently harmless and even lovable and pious origin. Heresy begins with people who are, to all appearance, better than their neighbors. A gentle and pious girl, or a young man who has obeyed the command of our Lord by giving all his riches to the poor and putting on the garb of poverty, the life of austerity, and the rule of humility and charity, may be the founder of a heresy that will wreck both church and empire if not ruthlessly stamped out in time. The records of the Holy Inquisition are full of histories we dare not give to the world, because they are beyond the belief of honest men and innocent women, yet they all begin with saintly simpletons. I have seen this again and again. Mark what I say. The woman who quarrels with her clothes and puts on the dress of a man is like the man who throws off his fur gown and dresses like John the Baptist. They are followed, as surely as the night follows the day, by bands of wild women and men who refuse to wear any clothes at all. The Inquisitor, dropping his baldness and speaking very gravely, Brother Martin, if you had seen what I have seen of heresy, you would not think it a light thing, even in its most apparently harmless and even lovable and pious origins. Heresy begins with people who are, to all appearance, better than their neighbors. A gentle and pious girl, or a young man who has obeyed the command of our Lord by giving all his riches to the poor and putting on the garb of poverty, the life of austerity, and the rule of humility and charity, may be the founder of a heresy that will wreck both church and empire if not ruthlessly stamped out in time. The records of the Holy Inquisition are full of histories we dare not give to the world, because they are beyond the belief of honest men and innocent women. Yet they all begin with saintly simpletons. I have seen this again and again. Mark what I say. The woman who quarrels with her clothes and puts on the dress of a man is like the man who throws off his fur gown and dresses like John the Baptist. They are followed, as surely as the night follows the day, by bands of wild women and men who refuse to wear any clothes at all. When maids will neither marry nor take regular vows, and men reject marriage and exalt their lusts into divine inspirations, then, as surely as the summer follows the spring, they begin with polygamy and end by incest. Heresy at first seems innocent and even laudable, but it ends in such a monstrous horror of unnatural wickedness that the most tender hearted among you, if you saw it at work as I have seen it, would clamor against the mercy of the Church in dealing with it. For 200 years, the Holy Office has striven with these diabolical madnesses, and it knows that they begin always by vain and ignorant persons setting up their own judgment against the Church and taking it upon themselves to be the interpreters of God's will. You must not fall into the common error of mistaking these simpletons for liars and hypocrites. They believe honestly and sincerely that their diabolical inspiration is divine. Therefore, you must be on your guard against your natural compassion. You are all, I hope, merciful men. How else could you have devoted your lives to the service of our gentle Savior? You are going to see before you a young girl, pious and chaste, for I must tell you, gentlemen, that the things said of her by our English friends are supported by no evidence, while there is abundant testimony that her excesses have been excesses of religion and charity, and not of worldliness and wantonness. This girl is not one of those whose hard features are the sign of hard hearts, and whose brazen looks and lewd demeanor condemn them before they are accused. The devilish pride that has led her into her present peril has left no mark on her countenance. Strange as it may seem to you, it has even left no mark on her character outside those special matters in which she is proud, so that you will see a diabolical pride and a natural humility seated side by side in the self same soul. Therefore, be on your guard. God forbid that I should tell you to harden your hearts, for her punishment, if we condemn her, will be so cruel that we should forfeit our hope of divine mercy were there one grain of malice against her in our hearts. But if you hate cruelty, and if any man here does not hate it, I command him on his soul's salvation to quit this holy court. I say, if you hate cruelty, remember that nothing is so cruel in its consequences as the toleration of heresy. Remember also that no court of law can be so cruel as the common people are to those whom they suspect of heresy. The heretic in the hands of the Holy Office is safe from violence, is assured of a fair trial, and cannot suffer death even when guilty if repentance follows sin. Innumerable lives of heretics have been saved because the Holy Office has taken them out of the hands of the people, and because the people have yielded them up, knowing that the Holy Office would deal with them. Before the Holy Inquisition existed, and even now, when its officers are not within reach, the unfortunate wretch suspected of heresy, perhaps quite ignorantly and unjustly, is stoned, torn to pieces, drowned, burned in his house, with all his innocent children, without a trial, unshriven, unburied, save as a dog is buried, all of them deeds hateful to God and most cruel to man. Gentlemen, I am compassionate by nature as well as by my profession, and though the work I have to do may seem cruel to those who do not know how much more cruel it would be to leave it undone, I would go to the stake myself sooner than do it if I did not know its righteousness, its necessity, its essential mercy. I ask you to address yourself to this trial in that conviction. Anger is a bad counselor. Cast out anger. Pity is sometimes worse. Cast out pity. But do not cast out mercy. Remember only that justice comes first. Have you anything to say, my lord, before we proceed to trial? The Inquisitor seriously warns the court that even seemingly innocent people like Joan of Arc can spread dangerous heresy which must be stopped strictly, and urges them to set aside pity and focus on justice before beginning the trial. Caution. You have spoken for me, and spoken better than I could. I do not see how any sane man could disagree with a word that has fallen from you. But this I will add. The crude heresies of which you have told us are horrible, but their horror is like that of the Black Death. They rage for a while and then die out, because sound and sensible men will not under any incitement be reconciled to nakedness and incest and polygamy and the like. But we are confronted today throughout Europe with a heresy that is spreading among men, not weak in mind, nor diseased in brain. Nay, the stronger the mind, the more obstinate the heretic. It is neither discredited by fanatic extremes, nor corrupted by common lusts of flesh, but it, too, sets up the private judgment of the single erring mortal against the considered wisdom and experience of the Church. The mighty structure of Catholic Christendom will never be shaken by naked madmen or by the sins of Moab and Ammon, but it may be betrayed from within and brought to barbarous ruin and desolation by this arch heresy which the English commander calls Protestantism. Pierre Cochon agrees with the Inquisitor and warns that unlike earlier wild heresies, a more dangerous new one, Protestantism, is spreading among intelligent people, threatening the authority of the Church from within. The assessors whispering, Protestantism? What was that? What does the bishop mean? Is it a new heresy? The English commander, he said, did you ever hear of Protestantism? Etc., etc. The assessors whisper in confusion, wondering what Protestantism is, since it is a new and unfamiliar heresy to them. Cochon, continuing, and that reminds me, what provisions has the Earl of Warwick made for the defense of the secular arm should the maid prove obdurate, and the people be moved to pity her? The chaplain, have no fear on that score, my lord. The noble Earl has 800 men at arms at the gates. She will not slip through our English fingers, even if the whole city be on her side. Cochon, revolted, will you not add, God grant that she repent and purge her sin? Pierre Cochon asks about security if Joan of Arc refuses to give in. The chaplain assures him that Warwick has soldiers ready to stop any rescue, and Cochon, disturbed, says they should also hope she repents and saves her soul. The chaplain, that does not seem to me to be consistent, but of course I agree with your lordship. Cochon, giving him up with a shrug of contempt. The court sits. The Inquisitor. Let the accused be brought in. Let venue. The accused. Let her be brought in. The chaplain doubts Cauchon's word but agrees. Cauchon dismisses him and declares the court in session. The Inquisitor orders the accused, Joan of Arc, to be brought in, and Ledvenue repeats the order. The chaplain doubts Cauchon's words but agrees. Cauchon dismisses him and declares the court in session. The Inquisitor orders the accused, Joan of Arc, to be brought in, and Ledvenue repeats the order. Joan, chained by the ankles, is brought in through the arched door behind the prisoner's stool by a guard of English soldiers. With them is the executioner and his assistants. They lead her to the prisoner's stool and place themselves behind it after taking off her chain. She wears a page's black suit. Her long imprisonment and the strain of the examinations which have preceded the trial have left their mark on her. But her vitality still holds. She confronts the court unabashed, without a trace of the awe which their formal solemnity seems to require for the complete success of its impressiveness. Joan of Arc is brought in by English soldiers with the executioner freed from her chain and made to sit. And though she looks worn from imprisonment, she remains strong and fearless, showing no fear of the court. The Inquisitor. Sit down, Joan. You look very pale today. Are you not well? Joan. Thank you, kindly. I'm well enough. But the bishop sent me some carp and it made me ill. Cauchon. I'm sorry. I told them to see that it was fresh. Joan. You meant to be good to me, I know. But it is a fish that does not agree with me. The English thought you were trying to poison me. The Inquisitor kindly asks Joan of Arc about her health. She says she felt ill after eating fish sent by Pierre Cauchon, who apologizes, and she adds that although he meant well, the English suspected it was an attempt to poison her. The Inquisitor kindly asks Joan of Arc about her health. She says she felt ill after eating fish sent by Pierre Cauchon, who apologizes, and she adds that although he meant well, the English suspected it was an attempt to poison her. Joan. They are determined that I shall be burnt as a witch, and they sent their doctor to cure me. But he was forbidden to bleed me because the silly people believe that a witch's witchery leaves her if she is bled. So he only called me filthy names. Why do you leave me in the hands of the English? I should be in the hands of the church. And why must I be chained by the feet to a log of wood? Are you afraid I will fly away? Joan of Arc complains that the English want to burn her as a witch, treated her badly instead of properly caring for her, questions why she is kept under their control instead of the church, and protests against being chained like she might escape. Destavit. Woman, it is not for you to question the court. It is for us to question you. Corsalis. When you were left unchained, did you not try to escape by jumping from a tower 60 feet high? If you cannot fly like a witch, how is it that you are still alive? Destavit harshly tells Joan of Arc not to question the court, and Corsalis accuses her of trying to escape by jumping from a tower, suggesting suspiciously that she survived like a witch. Joan. I suppose because the tower was not so high then. It has grown higher every day since you began asking me questions about it. Destavit. Why did you jump from the tower? Joan. How do you know that I jumped? Destavit. You were found lying in the moat. Why did you leave the tower? Joan. Why would anybody leave a prison if they could get out? Joan of Arc replies cleverly and sarcastically to their questions, denying their assumptions and simply saying she tried to escape because anyone would try to get out of prison. Destavit. You tried to escape? Joan. Of course I did, and not for the first time either. If you leave the door of the cage open, the bird will fly out. Destavit. That is a confession of heresy. I call the attention of the court to it. Joan. Heresy? He calls it. Am I a heretic because I try to escape from prison? Joan of Arc openly admits she tried to escape because it is natural for anyone to seek freedom. But Destavit wrongly calls it heresy, and she challenges this by questioning how escaping prison could make her a heretic. Destavit. Assuredly, if you are in the hands of the church and you willfully take yourself out of its hands, you are deserting the church, and that is heresy. Joan. It is a great nonsense. No could be such a fool as to think that. Destavit. You hear, my lord, how I am reviled in the execution of my duty by this woman. He sits down indigently. Kushon. I have warned you before, Joan, that you are doing yourself no good by these pert answers. Destavit claims that Joan of Arc's attempt to escape is heresy because she is leaving the church's authority. Joan rejects this as nonsense, and when he complains, Pierre Cushon warns her that her bold replies are harming her case. Joan. But you will not talk sense to me. I am reasonable if you will be reasonable. The Inquisitor interposing. This is not yet in order. You forgot, Master Promoter, that the proceedings have not been formally opened. The time for questions is after she has sworn on the Gospels to tell us the whole truth. Joan of Arc says she will speak reasonably if treated fairly, but the Inquisitor stops the exchange and reminds the court that questioning cannot begin until she formally swears to tell the truth. Joan. You say this to me every time. I have said again and again that I will tell you all that concerns this trial, but I cannot tell you the whole truth. God does not allow the whole truth to be told. You do not understand it when I tell it. It is an old saying that he who tells too much truth is sure to be hanged. I am weary of this argument. We have been over it 9 times already. I have sworn as much as I will swear, and I will swear no more. Joan of Arc says she is willing to tell what is relevant, but not everything, because she believes God does not allow it, and she refuses to keep repeating the oath or argument again. Corsalis. My lord, she should be put to the torture. The Inquisitor. You hear, Joan? This is what happens to the obdurate. Think before you answer. Has she been shown the instrument? The Executioner. They are ready, my lord. She has seen them. Corsalis suggests torturing Joan of Arc, and the Inquisitor warns her that this is what happens if she remains stubborn, while the Executioner confirms she has already been shown the torture instruments. Joan. If you tear me limb by limb until you separate my soul from my body, you will get nothing out of me beyond what I have told you. What more is there to tell that you could understand? Besides, I cannot bear to be hurt, and if you hurt me, I will say anything you like to stop the pain, but I will take it all back afterwards. So what is the use of it? Joan of Arc says that even if she is tortured, she will not reveal anything more, and though pain might force her to say anything, she would later take it back so torture is useless. Led venue. There is much in that. We should proceed mercifully. Corsalis. But the torture is customary. The Inquisitor. It must not be applied once only. If the accused will confess voluntarily, then its use cannot be justified. Corsalis. But this is unusual and irregular. She refuses to take the oath. Led venue suggests showing mercy to Joan of Arc. Corsalis argues that torture is normal. The Inquisitor says it should only be used if necessary, and Corsalis insists her refusal to take the oath makes the situation irregular. Led venue, disgusted. Do you want to torture the girl for the mere pleasure of it? Corsalis, bewildered. But it is not a pleasure. It is the law. It is customary. It is always done. The Inquisitor. This is not so, Master, except when the inquiries are carried on by people who do not know their legal business. Corsalis. But the woman is a heretic. I assure you, it is always done. Led venue criticizes the idea of torturing Joan of Arc unnecessarily. Corsalis insists it is normal and required by law, but the Inquisitor corrects him, saying torture is not always used and should not be misapplied. Cauchon, decisively, it will not be done today if it is not necessary. Let there be an end of this. I will not have it said that we proceeded on forced confessions. We have sent our best preachers and doctors to this woman to exhort and implore her to save her soul and body from the fire. We shall not now send the executioner to thrust her into it. Corsalis. Your lordship is merciful, of course, but it is a great responsibility to depart from the usual practice. Joan. Thou art a rare noodle, master. Do what was done last time is thy rule. Hey? Pierre Cauchon firmly refuses to use torture unless absolutely necessary, saying they want a fair trial. Corsalis worries about not following usual practice, and Joan of Arc mocks him for blindly following old customs. Corsalis. Thou went on, dost thou dare call me noodle? Corsalis angrily stands up and insults Joan of Arc, calling her immoral, that is went on, and reacting furiously to being called a fool, that is noodle. The Inquisitor. Patience, master, patience. I fear you will soon be only too terribly avenged. Corsalis mutters, noodle indeed. He sits down, much discontented. The Inquisitor. Meanwhile, let us not be moved by the rough side of a shepherd's lass's tongue. The Inquisitor calms Corsalis, saying he will get his revenge later, and tells the court not to be disturbed by the blunt speech of Joan of Arc. Joan. Nay, I am no shepherd lass, though I have helped with the ship like anyone else. I will do a lady's work in the house, spin or weave, against any woman in ruin. Joan of Arc says she is not just a simple shepherd girl, and that she can do skilled household work like spinning and weaving, as well as any woman in Rouen. The Inquisitor. This is not a time for vanity, Joan. You stand in a great peril. Joan. I know it. Have I not been punished for my vanity? If I had not worn my cloth of gold surcoat in the battle like a fool, that Burgundian soldier would never have pulled me backwards off my horse, and I should not have been here. The Chaplain. If you are so clever at woman's work, why do you not stay at home and do it? The Inquisitor warns Joan of Arc that she is in danger. She admits her past pride led her to capture, and the Chaplain questions why she did not stay at home doing traditional woman's work instead of going to war. Joan. There are plenty of other women to do it, but there is nobody to do my work. Cauchon. Come, we are wasting time on trifles. Joan, I am going to put a most solemn question to you. take care how you answer, for your life and salvation are at stake on it. Will you, for all you have said and done, be it good or bad, accept the judgment of God's church on earth, more especially as to the acts and words that are imputed to you in this trial by the promoter here? Will you submit your case to the inspired interpretation of the church militant? Joan, I am a faithful child of the church. I will obey the church. Joan of Arc says her work is unique and important. Then Pierre Cochon asks her to fully submit to the church's judgment. And she begins by saying she is loyal to the church and willing to obey it. Cochon, hopefully leaning forward, you will? Joan, provided it does not command anything impossible. Cochon sinks back in his chair with a heavy sigh. The inquisitor purses his lips and frowns. Ladvenue shakes his head pitifully. Destavit, she imputes to the church the error and folly of commanding the impossible. When Joan of Arc says she will obey the church only if it does not ask the impossible, Pierre Cochon and others are disappointed, and Destavit accuses her of suggesting the church can be wrong. Joan, if you command me to declare that all that I have done and said and all the visions and revelations I have had were not from God, then that is impossible. I will not declare it for anything in the world. What God made me do, I will never go back on, and what He has commanded or shall command, I will not fail to do in spite of any man alive. That is what I mean by impossible. And in case the church should bid me do anything contrary to the command I have from God, I will not consent to it, no matter what it may be. Joan of Arc says she will not deny that her visions came from God and will obey God above all, even if the church tells her to do the opposite. The assessors, shocked and indignant, oh, the church contrary to the God? What do you say now? Flat heresy. This is beyond everything. Destavit, throwing down his brief, my lord, do you need anything more than this? Cochon, woman, you have said enough to burn 10 heretics. Will you not be warned? Will you not understand? The assessors are shocked and call Joan of Arc's word heresy. Destavit says this is enough evidence, and Pierre Cochon warns her that her statements are dangerous and could lead to her execution. The Inquisitor, if the church militant tells you that your revelations and visions are sent by the devil to tempt you to your damnation, will you not believe that the church is wiser than you? Joan, I believe that God is wiser than I, and it is His commands that I will do. All the things that you call my crimes have come to me by the command of God. I say that I have done them by the order of God. It is impossible for me to say anything else. If any churchman says the contrary, I shall not mind him. I shall mind God alone, whose command I always follow. The Inquisitor asks Joan of Arc to trust the church over her visions, but she firmly says she will obey God alone and insists everything she has done was by God's command, not the church's judgment. Ladvenue, pleading with her urgently, you do not know what you are saying, child. Do you want to kill yourself? Listen, do you not believe that you are subject to the church of God on earth? Joan, yes. When have I ever denied it? Ladvenue, good. That means, does it not, that you are subject to our Lord the Pope, to the cardinals, to the archbishops, and the bishops for whom his lordship stands here today? Joan, God must be served first. Ladvenue urges Joan of Arc to accept the authority of the church leaders, but she agrees only in principle and insists that God must come before them. Destavit. Then your voices command you not to submit yourself to the church militant? Destavit asks Joan of Arc whether her voices are telling her not to obey the church authorities. Joan, my voices do not tell me to disobey the church, but God must be served first. Kushon, and you and not the church are to be the judge. Joan, what other judgment can I judge by but my own? Assessors, scandalized. Oh! Joan of Arc says she does not reject the church but will follow God first and her own judgment, which shocks the court because it challenges church authority. Kushon, out of your own mouth you have condemned yourself. You have striven for your salvation to the verge of sinning ourselves. We have opened the door to you again and again, and you have shut it in our faces and in the face of God. Dare you pretend, after what you have said, that you are in a state of grace? Joan, if I am not, may God bring me to it. If I am, may God keep me in it. Lad Venue, that is a very good reply, my lord. Pierre Cushon says Joan of Arc has condemned herself by her own words, but she humbly replies that only God knows her state of grace, and Lad Venue praises her answer. Corsalis, were you in a state of grace when you stole the bishop's horse? Cushon, rising in a fury, oh, devil take the bishop's horse, and you too. We are here to try a case of heresy, and no sooner do we come to the root of the matter than we are thrown back by idiots who understand nothing but horses. Trembling with rage, he forces himself to sit down. The Inquisitor, gentlemen, in clinging to these small issues, you are the maid's best advocates. I am not surprised that his lordship has lost patience with you. What does the promoter say? Does he press this trumpery matters? When the issue of the bishop's horse is raised again, Pierre Cushon angrily dismisses it as irrelevant, insisting the trial is about hearsay, and the Inquisitor agrees that focusing on such trivial matter only helps Joan of Arc. Destavit, I am bound by my office to press everything, but when the woman confesses a heresy, that must bring upon her the doom of excommunication. Of what consequence is it that she has been guilty also of offences which expose her to minor penances? I share the impatience of his lordship as to these minor charges. Only with great respect I must emphasize the gravity of two very horrible and blasphemous crimes which she does not deny. First, she has intercourse with evil spirits and is therefore a sorceress. Second, she wears man's clothes, which is indecent, unnatural, and abominable, and in spite of our most earnest remonstrances and entreaties, she will not change them even to receive the sacrament. Destavit says that although he must present all charges, the minor ones do not matter because Joan of Arc has already admitted what he considers serious crimes: contact with evil spirits and wearing man's clothes, which he claims prove her heresy. Joan, is the blessed Saint Catherine an evil spirit? Is Saint Margaret? Is Michael the archangel? Corsalis, how do you know that the spirit which appears to you is an archangel? Does he not appear to you as a naked man? Joan, do you think God cannot afford clothes for him? The assessors cannot keep smiling, especially as the joke is against Corsalis. Joan of Arc defends her visions as holy, cleverly replies to Corsalis's question with humor, and the court members smile because her answer makes him look foolish. Lad Venue, well answered, Joan. The Inquisitor, it is in effect well answered, but no evil spirit would be so simple as to appear to a young girl in a guise that would scandalize her when he meant her to take him for a messenger from the Most High. Joan, the Church instructs you that these apparitions are demons seeking your soul's perdition. Do you accept the instructions of the church? Ladvenue praises Joan of Arc's reply, but the Inquisitor argues that her visions may still be demons and asks if she will accept the church's teaching over her own belief. Joan, I accept the messenger of God. How could any faithful believer in the church refuse him? Kushon, wretched woman, again I ask you, do you know what you are saying? The Inquisitor, you wrestle in vain with the devil for her soul. My lord, she will not be saved. Now, as to this matter of the man's dress, for the last time, will you put off that impudent attire and dress as becomes your sex? The Inquisitor warns Joan of Arc that she is in danger. She admits her past pride led to her capture, and the chaplain questions why she did not stay at home doing traditional woman's work instead of going to war. This is wrongly added here. Joan, I will not, Destavit. The sin of disobedience, my lord. Joan, but my voices tell me I must dress as a soldier. Ladvenue, Joan, does not that prove to you that the voices are the voices of evil spirits? Can you suggest to us one good reason why an angel of God should give you such shameless advice? Joan, why? Yes, what can be plainer common sense? I was a soldier living among soldiers. I am a prisoner guarded by soldiers. If I were to dress as a woman, they would think of me as a woman, and then what would become of me? If I dress as a soldier, they think of me as a soldier, and I can live with them as I do at home with my brothers. That is why Saint Catherine tells me I must not dress as a woman until she gives me leave. Corsalis, when will she give you leave? Joan, when you take me out of the hands of the English soldiers. I have told you that I should be in the hands of the church and not left night and day with 4 soldiers of the Earl of Warwick. Do you want me to live with them in petticoats? Ladvenue, my lord, what she says is, God knows, very wrong and shocking, but there is a grain of worldly sense in it, such as might impose on a simple village maiden. Joan, if we were as simple in the village as you are in your courts and palaces, there would soon be no wheat to make bread for you. Joan of Arc says that if villagers were as foolish as the court people, they would not be able to grow food, meaning she sees herself as more practical and sensible than them. Kushon, that is the thanks you get for trying to save her. Brother Martin? Ladvenue, Joan, we are all trying to save you. His lordship is trying to save you. The Inquisitor could not be more just to you if you were his own daughter, but you are blinded by a terrible pride and self-sufficiency. Joan, why do you say that? I have said nothing wrong. I cannot understand. The Inquisitor, the blessed Saint Athanasius has laid it down in his creed that those who cannot understand are damned. It is not enough to be simple. It is not enough even to be what simple people call good. The simplicity of a darkened mind is no better than the simplicity of a beast. Joan, there is great wisdom in the simplicity of a beast, let me tell you, and sometimes great foolishness in the wisdom of scholars. Ladvenue, we know that, Joan, we are not so foolish as you think us. Try to resist the temptation to make pert replies to us. Do you see that man who stands behind you? He indicates the executioner. Ladvenue tells Joan of Arc to stop giving sharp replies and warns her by pointing to the executioner behind her, hinting at the danger she is in. Joan, turning and looking at the man, your torturer? But the bishop said I was not to be tortured. Ladvenue, you are not to be tortured because you have confessed everything that is necessary to your condemnation. That man is not only the torturer, he is also the executioner. Executioner, let the maid hear your answer to my questions. Are you prepared for the burning of a heretic this day? The executioner, yes, master. Ladvenue, is the stake ready? The executioner, it is. in the marketplace. The English have built it too high for me to get near her and make the death easier. It will be a cruel death. Joan, horrified, but you are not going to burn me now. The Inquisitor, you realize it at last. Ladvenue, there are 800 English soldiers waiting to take you to the marketplace the moment the sentence of excommunication has passed the lips of your judges. You are within a few short moments of that doom. Joan, looking round desperately for rescue. Oh God! Ladvenue, do not despair, Joan. The church is merciful. You can save yourself. Joan, yes, my voices promised me I should not be burnt. Saint Catherine bade me be bold. Cauchon, woman, are you quite mad? Do you not yet see that your voices have deceived you? Joan, oh no, that is impossible. Cauchon, impossible? They have led you straight to your excommunication and to the stake which is there waiting for you. Ladvenue, pressing the point hard, have they kept a single promise to you since you were taken at Compiègne? The devil has betrayed you. The church holds out its arms to you. Joan, despairing, oh, it is true, it is true. My voices have deceived me. I have been mocked by devils. My faith is broken. I have dared and dared, but only a fool will walk into a fire. God, who gave me my common sense, cannot will me to do that. Ladvenue, now God be praised that he has saved you at the 11th hour. He hurries to the vacant seat at the scribe's table and snatches a sheet of paper on which he sets to work writing eagerly. Cauchon, Amen. Joan, what must I do? Cauchon, you must sign a solemn recantation of your heresy. Joan, sign? That means to write my name? I cannot write. Cauchon, you have signed many letters before. Joan, yes, but someone held my hand and guided the pen. I can make my mark. The chaplain, who has been listening with growing alarm and indignation. My lord, do you mean that you are going to allow this woman to escape us? The Inquisitor, the law must take its course, Master de Stogumber, and you know the law. The chaplain, rising purple with fury, I know that there is no faith in a Frenchman. Tumult, which he shouts down. I know what my lord the Cardinal of Winchester will say when he hears of this. I know what the Earl of Warwick will do when he learns that you intend to betray him. There are 800 men at the gate who will see that this abominable witch is burnt in spite of your teeth. The chaplain angrily accuses the French court of betrayal, threatens that Richard Neville's soldier will ensure Joan of Arc is burned, and shows strong hostility and political pressure in the trial. The assessors, what is this? What did he say? He accuses us of treachery? This is past bearing. No faith in a Frenchman. Did you hear that? This is an intolerable fellow. Who is he? Is this what English churchmen are like? He must be mad or drunk. The assessors react angrily and indignantly to the chaplain's insult, protesting that he has accused them of treachery and criticizing his rude behavior. The Inquisitor, silence, pray, gentlemen, pray, silence. Master Chaplain, bethink you a moment of your holy office, of what you are and where you are. I direct you to sit down. The Inquisitor, orders silence, rebukes the chaplain for forgetting his religious role and proper conduct, and commands him to sit down. The chaplain, folding his arms doggedly, his face working convulsively, I will not sit down. Cauchon, Master Inquisitor, this man has called me a traitor to my face before now. The chaplain, so you are a traitor. You are all traitors. You have been doing nothing but begging this damnable witch on your knees to recant all through this trial. The Inquisitor, placidly resuming his seat. If you will not sit, you must stand. That is all. The chaplain. I will not stand. He flinches himself back into his chair. Ledvenue, rising with a paper in his hand. My lord, here is the form of recantation for the maid to sign. Cushon. Read it to her. Joan. Do not trouble, I will sign it. The Inquisitor. Woman, you must know what you are putting your hand to. Read it to her, Brother Martin, and let all be silent. Ledvenue, reading quietly. I, Joan, commonly called the maid, a miserable sinner, do confess that I have most grievously sinned in the following articles. I have pretended to have revelations from God and the angels and the blessed saints, and the perversely rejected the church's warnings that these were temptations by demons. I have blasphemed abominably by wearing an immodest dress, contrary to the Holy Scriptures and the canons of the Church. Also, I have clipped my hair in the style of a man, and against all the duties which have made my sex specially acceptable in heaven, have taken up the sword, even to the shedding of human blood, inciting men to slay each other, invoking evil spirits to delude them, and stubbornly and most blasphemously imputing these sins to the Almighty God. I confess to the sins of sedition, to the sin of idolatry, to the sin of disobedience, to the sin of pride, and to the sin of heresy, all of which sins I now renounce and abjure and depart from, humbly thanking you, doctors and masters, who have brought me back to the truth and into the grace of our Lord. And I will never return to my errors, but will remain in communion with our Holy Church and in obedience to our Holy Father, the Pope of Rome. All this I swear by God Almighty and the Holy Gospels, in witness whereto I sign my name to this recantation. The Inquisitor. You understand this, Joan? Joan, listless. It is plain enough, sir. The Inquisitor. And is it true? Joan. It may be true. If it were not true, the fire would not be ready for me in the marketplace. Ledvenue, taking up his pen and a book and going to her quickly, lest she should compromise herself again. Come, child, let me guide your hand. Take the pen. She does so, and they begin to write, using the book as a desk. Jehane. So, now make your mark by yourself. Joan makes her mark and gives him back the pen, tormented by the rebellion of her soul against her mind and body. There. Ledvenue, replacing the pen on the table and handing the recantation to Cauchon with a reverence. Praise be to God, my brothers, the lamb has returned to the flock, and the shepherd rejoices in her more than in 99 just persons. He returns to his seat. The Inquisitor, taking the paper from Cauchon, he declares thee by this act set free from the danger of excommunication in which thou stoodest. He throws paper down to the table. Joan, I thank you. The Inquisitor, but because thou hast sinned most presumptuously against God and the Holy Church, and that thou mightst repent thy errors in solitary contemplation, and be shielded from all the temptation to return to them, we, for the good of thy soul, and for a penance that may wipe out thy sins, and bring thy finally unspotted to the throne of grace, do condemn thee to eat the bread of sorrow and drink the water of affliction, and to the end of thy early days in perpetual imprisonment. The Inquisitor, taking the paper from Cauchon, we declare thee by this act set free from the danger of excommunication in which thou stoodest. He throws the paper down to the table. Joan, I thank you. The Inquisitor, but because thou hast sinned most presumptuously against God and the Holy Church, and that thou mayest repent thy errors in solitary contemplation, and be shielded from all temptations to return to them, we, for the good of thy soul, and for the penance that may wipe out thy sins and bring thee finally unspotted to the throne of grace, do condemn thee to eat the bread of sorrow and drink the water of affliction to the end of thy earthly days in perpetual imprisonment. Joan, rising in consternation and terrible anger. Perpetual imprisonment? Am I not then to be set free? Ledvenue, mildly shocked. Set free, child, after such wickedness as yours? What are you dreaming of? Joan, give me that writing. She rushes to the table, snatches up the paper, and tears it into fragments. Light your fire. Do you think I dread it as much as the life of a rat in a hole? My voices were right. Ledvenue. Joan, Joan, Joan. Yes, they told me you were fools. The word gives great offense, and that I was not to listen to your fine words, nor trust your charity. You promised me my life, but you lied. You think that life is nothing but not being stone dead? It is not the bread and water I fear. I can live on bread. When have I asked for more? It is no hardship to drink water if the water be clean. Bread has no sorrow for me, and water no affliction. But to shut me from the light of the sky and the sight of the fields and flowers, to chain my feet so that I can never again ride with the soldiers, nor climb the hills, to make me breathe foul, damp darkness, and keep from me everything that brings me back to the love of God, when your wickedness and foolishness tempt me to hate Him. All this is worse than the furnace in the Bible that was heated 7 times. I could do without my horse. I could do without my war horse. I could drag about in a skirt. I could let the banners and the trumpets and the knights and the soldiers pass me and leave me behind as they leave the other woman. If only I could still hear the wind in the trees, the larks in the sunshine, the young lambs crying through the healthy frost, and the blessed church bells that send my angel voices floating to me on the wind. But without these things I cannot live, and by your wanting to take them away from me, or from any human creature, I know that your counsel is of the devil, and that mine is of God. The assessors. Blasphemy, blasphemy. She is possessed. She said our counsel was of the devil, and hers of God. Monstrous. The devil is in our midst. Destavit. She is a relapsed heretic, obstinate, incorrigible, and altogether unworthy of the mercy we have shown her. I call for her excommunication. The chaplain to the executioner. Light your fire, man, to the stake with her. The executioner and his assistants hurry out through the courtyard. Ledvenue. You wicked girl, if your counsel were of God, would he not deliver you? Joan. His ways are not your ways. He wills that I go through the fire to his bosom, for I am his child, and you are not fit that I should live among you. That is my last word to you. The soldiers seize her. Cushan, rising. Not yet. They wait. There is a dead silence. Cushan turns to the inquisitor with an inquiring look. The inquisitor nods affirmatively. They rise solemnly and intone the sentence antiphonally. Cushan, we decree that thou art a relapsed heretic. The inquisitor, cast out from the unity of the church. Cushan, sundered from her body. The inquisitor, infected with the leprosy of heresy. Cushan, a member of Satan. The inquisitor, we declare that thou must be excommunicate. Cushan, and now we do cast thee out, segregate thee, and abandon thee to the secular power. The Inquisitor, admonishing the same secular power that it moderate its judgment of thee in respect of death and division of the limbs. Question. And if any true sign of penitence appears in thee, to permit our brother Martin to administer thee the sacrament of penance. The chaplain. Into the fire with the witch. He rushes at her and helps the soldier to push her out. Joan is taken away through the courtyard. The assessors rise in disorder and follow the soldiers, except Ledvenu, who has hidden his face in his hands. Cauchon, rising again in the act of sitting down. No, no, this is irregular. The representative of the secular arm should be here to receive her from us. The Inquisitor, also on his feet again. That man is an incorrigible fool. Cauchon, Brother Martin, see that everything is done in order. Ledvenu, my place is at her side, my lord. You must exercise your own authority. He hurries out. Cauchon, these English are impossible. They will thrust her straight into the fire. Look! He points to the courtyard, in which the glow and flicker of fire can now be seen reddening in the May daylight. Only the bishop and the Inquisitor are left in the court. Cauchon, turning to go, we must stop that. The Inquisitor, calmly, yes, but not too fast, my lord. Cauchon, halting, but there is not a moment to lose. The Inquisitor, we have proceeded in perfect order. If the English choose to put themselves in the wrong, it is not our business to put them in the right. A flaw in the procedure may be useful later on. One never knows, and the sooner it is over, the better for that poor girl. Cauchon, that is true, but I suppose we must see this dreadful thing through. The Inquisitor, one gets used to it. Habit is everything. I am accustomed to the fire. It is soon over. But it is a terrible thing to see a young and innocent creature crushed between these mighty forces, the church and the law. Cauchon, you call her innocent? The Inquisitor, oh, quite innocent. What does she know of the church and the law? She did not understand a word we were saying. It is the ignorant who suffer. Come, or we shall be late for the end. Cauchon, going with him, I shall not be sorry if we are. I am not so accustomed as you. They are going out when Warwick comes in, meeting them. Warwick, oh, I am introducing. I thought it was all over. He makes a feint of retiring. Cauchon, do not go, my lord, it is all over. The Inquisitor, the execution is not in our hands, my lord, but it is desirable that we should witness the end. So by your leave, he bows and goes out through the courtyard. Cauchon, there is some doubt whether your people have observed the forms of law, my lord. Warwick, I am told that there is some doubt whether your authority runs in this city, my lord. It is not in your diocese. However, if you will answer for that, I will swear for the rest. Cauchon, it is to God that we both must answer. Good morning, my lord. Warwick, my lord, good morning. They look at one another for a moment with unconcealed hostility. Then Cauchon follows the Inquisitor out. Warwick looks around. Finding himself alone, he calls for attendance. Warwick, hello, some attendance here. Hello there. Hello, Brian, you, young blackguard. Where are you? Guard. They have all gone to see the burning, even that child. The silence is broken by someone frantically howling and sobbing. Warwick, what in the devil's name? The chaplain staggers in from the courtyard like a demented creature, his face streaming with tears, making the piteous sounds that Warwick has heard. He stumbles to the prisoner's stone and throws himself upon it with heart-rending sobs. Warwick, going to him and patting him on the shoulder. What is it, Master John? What is the matter? The chaplain, clutching at his hand. my Lord, for Christ's sake, pray for my wretched, guilty soul. Warwick, soothing him, yes, yes, of course I will, calmly, gently. The chaplain, blubbering miserably, I am not a bad man, my lord. Warwick, no, no, not at all. The chaplain, I meant no harm. I did not know what it would be like. Warwick, hardening, oh, you saw it then. The chaplain, I did not know what I was doing. I am a hot-headed fool, and I shall be damned to all eternity for it. Warwick, nonsense. Very distressing, no doubt, but it was not your doing. The chaplain, lamentably, I let them do it. If I had known, I would have torn her from their hands. You don't know, you haven't seen. It is so easy to talk when you don't know. You madden yourself with words. You damn yourself because it feels grand to throw oil on the flaming hell of your own temper. But when it is brought home to you, when you see the thing you have done, when it is blinding your eyes, stifling your nostrils, tearing your heart, then, O God, take away this sight from me. O Christ, deliver me from this fire that is consuming me. She cried to thee in the midst of it. Jesus, 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 she is in thy bosom, and I am in hell for evermore. Warwick, come on, come, man, you must pull yourself together. We shall have the whole town talking of this. He throws him not too gently into a chair at the table. If you have not the nerve to see these things, why do you not do as I do and stay away? The chaplain, bewildered and submissive, she asked for a cross. A soldier gave her 2 sticks tied together. Thank God he was an Englishman. I might have done it, but I did not. I am a coward, a mad dog, a fool, but he was an Englishman too. Warwick, the fool, they will burn him too if the priests get hold of him. The chaplain, shaken with convulsions. Some of the people laughed at her. They would have laughed at Christ. They were French people, my lord. I know they were French. Warwick, hush. Someone is coming. Control yourself. Ledvenue comes back through the courtyard to Warwick's right hand, carrying a bishop's cross which he has taken from a church. He is very grave and composed. Warwick, I am informed that it is all over, Brother Martin. Ledvenue, we do not know, my lord. It may have only just begun. Warwick, what does that mean exactly? Ledvenue, I took this cross from the church for her that she might see it to the last. She had only 2 sticks that she put into her bosom when the fire crept round us, and she saw that if I held the cross before her, I should be burnt myself. She warned me to get down and save myself. My lord, a girl who could think of another's danger in such a moment was not inspired by the devil. When I had to snatch the cross from her sight, she looked up to heaven, and I do not believe that the heavens were empty. I firmly believe that her Savior appeared to her then in his tenderest glory. She called to him and died. This is not the end for her, but the beginning. Warwick, I am afraid it will have a bad effect on the people. Ledvenue, it had, my lord, on some of them. I heard laughter. Forgive me for saying that I hope and believe it was English laughter. The chaplain, rising frantically, no, it was not. There was only one Englishman there that disgraced his country, and that was the mad dog, de Stogumber. He rushes wildly out, shrieking, let them torture him, let them burn him. I will go pray among her ashes. I am no better than Judas. I will hang myself. Warwick, quick, Brother Martin, follow him. He will do himself some mischief. After him, quick. Ledvenue hurries out, Warwick urging him. The executioner comes in by the door behind the judges' chairs, and Warwick, returning, finds himself face to face with him. Warwick, well, fellow, who are you? The executioner, with dignity, I am not addressed as fellow, my lord. I am the master executioner of Rowan. It is a highly skilled mystery. I am come to tell your lordship that your orders have been obeyed. Warwick, I crave your pardon, master executioner, and I will see that you lose nothing by having no relics to sell. I have your word, have I, that nothing remains, not a bone, not a nail, not a hair. The executioner, her heart would not burn, my lord, but everything that was left is at the bottom of the river. You have heard the last of her. Warwick, with a weary smile, thinking of what led when you said, the last of her. I wonder. Let's do some few question answers from the back of the chapter. The chaplain emerges as one of the most interesting characters. Discuss. The chaplain D. Stogumber is one of the most complex and interesting characters in this scene because he undergoes a major emotional transformation. At the beginning, he appears as a narrow-minded, aggressive, and fanatical priest. He strongly supports the English side and shows deep hatred toward Joan of Arc, even calling her a witch and demanding her execution. His behavior is loud, rude, and disrespectful, especially when he insults the French court. However, his character changes dramatically after witnessing Joan's execution. He is unable to bear the reality of what has been done. He returns completely broken, crying, trembling, and filled with guilt. He admits that he did not understand the cruelty of the act before and now feels responsible for Joan's death. His emotional collapse shows that he is not truly evil, but weak and misguided. This transformation makes him very human. Shaw uses him to show how people can support cruelty blindly but later regret it when they see its consequences. The chaplain represents emotional truth and moral awakening, making him one of the most memorable and realistic characters in the play. What role do the Dominican priests play in the scene? The Dominican priests, especially Brother John Lemaitre, the Inquisitor, and Brother Martin Ledvenu, play a very important role in the trial. They represent the intellectual and religious authority of the Church. The Inquisitor is calm, logical, and experienced. He does not act out of anger, but out of a belief that he is protecting society. He explains that heresy is dangerous because it begins with innocent people but can destroy the church and social order. He focuses the trial strictly on heresy and tries to ensure that proper legal procedures are followed. He represents the cold, rational side of institutional power. On the other hand, Ledvenu is more compassionate and emotional. He tries to save Joan of Arc by persuading her to submit to the church. He shows kindness and sympathy, especially when Joan is frightened. Even at the end, he respects her courage and believes she is not inspired by the devil. Together, the Dominican priests show two sides of the church. The Inquisitor, strict, logical, and authoritative. Ledvenu, kind, humane, and sympathetic. Their role is to guide the trial, interpret religious law, and attempt in their own ways to save Joan's soul. Comment on Shaw's presentation of the trial of Joan. George Bernard Shaw presents the trial of Joan of Arc in a very unique and balanced way. Instead of showing the judges as villains, Shaw presents them as intelligent, sincere, and responsible men who believe they are doing the right thing. The trial is not shown as a simple case of cruelty, but as a conflict between two truths: Joan's belief in personal guidance from God and the church's belief in authority and order. Shaw highlights that the church fears Joan not because she is evil, but because she challenges its authority. Her idea that individuals can directly follow God threatens the entire system of the church. Thus, her trial becomes both a religious and political issue. The proceedings are shown as formal and logical, but also deeply flawed. Joan is intelligent and practical, often exposing the weaknesses in the arguments of the court. However, the system is too powerful and her honesty becomes her downfall. The most tragic part of Shaw's presentation is that the judges believe they are saving society. Joan believes she is following God, yet both sides lead to her destruction. Thus, Shaw presents the trial as a tragic conflict between individual conscience and institutional authority, rather than a simple injustice. This makes the play deeply philosophical and thought provoking. Write short notes on the following: the Inquisitor, Brother John Lemaitre. The Inquisitor, Brother John Lemaitre. Jean Lemaitre, Brother John Lemaitre, represents the highest authority of the Church in matters of heresy. He is calm, intelligent, and deeply experienced. Unlike other characters who act emotionally, the Inquisitor speaks with logic, patience, and control. He believes that heresy is extremely dangerous because it begins with innocent individuals but can eventually destroy both the church and society. For him, the issue is not personal hatred toward Joan of Arc, but the need to maintain order and discipline in religion. He ensures that the trial follows proper procedure and discourages unnecessary cruelty like torture unless required. However, he is also firm and unyielding. He ultimately supports Joan's condemnation because he sees her refusal to submit to the church as a serious threat. Thus, the Inquisitor represents cold reason, institutional power, and religious authority, showing how even intelligent and sincere people can justify harsh actions. Brother Martin Ladvenu. Brother Martin Ladvenu is a kind, gentle, and compassionate Dominican priest. Unlike the Inquisitor, he is more emotional and humane. He genuinely tries to save Joan of Arc not by force but by persuasion. Throughout the trial, he speaks softly and advises Joan to submit to the church for her own safety. He is deeply troubled by her stubbornness but never becomes harsh or cruel. He represents the merciful side of the church. At the end, Ladvenu's character becomes even more important. He stays with Joan during her final moments and recognizes her courage and purity. He even begins to doubt whether she was truly wrong, suggesting that she may have been inspired by God rather than the devil. Thus, Ladvenu represents compassion, sympathy, and moral conflict, making him one of the most human characters in the play. The Earl of Warwick. Richard Neville represents the political power of England. Unlike the church officials, he is not concerned with religion or heresy. His main concern is political stability. He openly admits that Joan must die because she is a threat to English rule. Joan inspires the French people, and as long as she lives, she can unite them against England. Therefore, Warwick sees her execution as a political necessity, not a moral or religious issue. He is practical, realistic, and somewhat cynical. He does not pretend to be righteous like the church authorities. Instead, he clearly states his motives. Thus, Warwick represents politics, power, and realism, showing how Joan's trial is not only religious but also deeply political. Cauchon. Pierre Cauchon is the chief judge of the trial. He is an intelligent and disciplined church leader who tries to conduct the trial fairly. Cauchon is not shown as a villain. He believes he is doing the right thing by protecting the authority of the church. He insists that the trial should be proper and rejects unnecessary cruelty like torture unless needed. However, he is also firm in his belief that Joan is guilty of heresy because she refuses to fully submit to the church. He becomes frustrated with her stubbornness and sees her as a danger to religious order. Cauchon represents the conflict between duty and justice. He is sincere but limited by his position and beliefs. His character shows how institutions can lead even good men to make tragic decisions. Thank you very much for listening through. there could be a lot of pronunciation errors. Kindly ignore that. This video was only for reading, my reading for the exams. Thank you.